Flute players are renowned for playing out of tune, and sometimes it's not unjustified. I've got 6 things that you could look at in your playing that will help you focus on playing in tune. But remember, this is something that you develop over time, and as your listening improves, you can hear the small differences, and then the crucial thing is knowing how to fix it. I also can tell you one thing that might make you feel a little bit better about it all. The first thing is the position of your head joint in the body of the flute. Your flute is built so that it is meant to be out by half a centimetre. It's quite hard to see my flute because it's solid silver. You might have a silver plated flute or nickel plated flute where you can see the line a little bit better. But if it's pushed right in, it's not going to play in tune with itself, never mind anybody else. So as a standard, out about half a centimetre, and that way you can adjust it to make it sharp or flat. So making the tube longer makes it flatter. Think of a bassoon that's really low sound, or if you make the tube shorter, it makes it higher or sharper. Think of a piccolo, which is a high up sound. So always start with your flute out a little bit. Number 2 is the position of the hole in relation to your lips. So if you are too far turned in, that will also cause knock-on effect with hand position as well. But if you're too far turned in, your octave is going to be short. So it's going to feel very flat at the top. It's also going to squash the sound as well. Conversely, if you're too far turned out, there's too much of the hole turned out. I'm exaggerating, of course, but that's the effect of it. So you want to find the optimum place for you to play, usually right on top of the flute, with a little bit of the red part of your lip on the line of the hole. Number 3 is ambient temperature. So if you are playing in a really hot room, you will need to pull your head joint out a little bit to make up for the fact that your flute will be sharper if it's warm. So it's the temperature of the instrument that makes a difference. Also bear in mind, if you haven't warmed the instrument up, it will get sharper as the metal warms up. So always good to do a decent warm up so you know your flute's at this steady temperature. Again, if it's cold, if you're playing outside or whatever, you might find that you have to make your flute a little bit sharper. You would do this by pushing the head joint in. Number 4, this is to do with the amount of experience that you have got. And we talked earlier about the listening. Of course, that's going to develop. But actually, your playing muscles, if your embouchure isn't developed, then it's difficult for it to maintain the pitch. It's not necessarily got the strength. Don't forget, we're not talking about squeezing. We're talking about holding the correct lip shape for the notes that you're playing. So lots of long notes will help to create stability in your pitch as well as developing your sound. Along the same lines, let's call this 4A, is that you haven't developed the ability to create a strong and steady airflow. So long notes, again, and tone exercises will help you know exactly the amount of air that's coming out, exactly what speed it's at, so that it can support the sound. Beginner players often play with a fluctuating airflow. They will overblow or underblow. It can change even throughout a long note. So knowing exactly the speed of the air will help, again, create stability in your pitch. Number 5 is the lack of flexibility in your embouchure. So if you play with a very fixed embouchure, it's going to cause you problems as you ascend upwards. Probably you'll notice this because the tone will deteriorate as well. These are micro movements, remember, so it's just getting some flexibility, some note bending exercise in there so that your embouchure is a little bit malleable to help with the pitch. Remember, you need flexibility in your embouchure as well, depending on the dynamic that you're playing. So if you look at the video that I've done on dynamics, you'll spot that as you go softer, you may well go quite a bit flatter. So you need to adjust your embouchure to compensate for the pitch loss. So that's to do with listening and flexibility. Number 6 is to do with focusing your sound. Yeah, your tone really does make a difference to how your pitch is perceived. Sometimes if you play with a very fuzzy sound, it can feel very sharp as well. So if you can direct the air to exactly the right place on the riser, that's the little wall that's inside your head joint, and you can create a really open but focused sound. You're you're going to be able to play far better in tune. Same thing happens if you're very, very tight. You can find that sometimes it feels a little bit flat. So again, working on your embouchure and good tone production will help you maintain your pitch. So presuming all these things are in place and you're doing your very best to work with a tuner and work with other people playing, why is it flute players get more of the blame for intonation problems? Well, here's the thing, it might make you feel a bit better. We're so far up the harmonic series. In the harmonic series, the intervals get closer and closer together. It's physics. And up at the top, because we play in a high instrument, the margin of error is really tiny. So if you're playing in a band or an orchestra and there's a problem in the chord further down, in the bassoons or the third clarinet, then by the time you get up to the flute and the piccolo part, we're the ones that make it sound an awful lot worse. That's the ones that people pick up, oh, it's really out of tune, when it might not be entirely your fault. I like to think of it like stripy wallpaper, and you start wallpapering in the middle of the wall and the stripes are sort of okay. By the time you get to the corner, they're way out. And that's what happens with flute players when we sit right at the top in the harmonic series. So have a discussion with your fellow musicians and see if it really is you that's the problem or if there might be something they could do to help. I hope that's helpful in the ever quest that we have to play in tune. Always listen, always keep working at it, always assume it's you and there's something that you can do, work to change it. But if that has helped you, please like this video and do subscribe and leave me any comments if you have questions down below.